The draft policy on women in sport. Cabinet approved the gazetting of the draft policy on women in sport for public comments. The policy outlines a set of measures that will promote and support women in sport and ensure programs are in place to address gender disparities in sporting codes and structures. It also addresses barriers to entry by women in sports, such as lack of funding, sponsorship, and inadequate remuneration. The proposed policy intends to promote increased active participation of women in sport and leadership roles such as coaching and officiating. The policy recognizes that increased participation of women in sport and leadership positions will drastically reduce and finally eradicate gender inequality and various forms of discrimination against women. It also seeks to promote equity and ensure women receive respect and recognition on the professional front, including equal remuneration as their male counterparts. And I must say, our girls have done this country proud. Sometimes I even felt that there are teams that we must replace with the female team so that the female teams becomes the first team of the nation. You could tell women are happy that there would have been more applauses in this room. Hosting of the International Maternal and Newborn Health Conference in 2023, Cabinet granted approval for South Africa to host the International Maternal and Newborn Health Conference in Cape Town from 8th to 11th of May 2023, where more than 1,000 stakeholders from around the world will gather to accelerate solutions to improve maternal and newborn survival and prevent stillborns. South Africa has made great progress towards achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals targets for maternal and newborn health and prevention of stillborns. The country will also benefit immensely as the conference delegate will share, amongst others, their effective strategies and innovations on maternal and newborn health issues. Resistance and Liberation Heritage Route Project, which is commonly known as the RLHR. Cabinet received a detailed progress report on the implementation of the RLHR project. Cabinet also approved that the Ministers of International Relations and Cooperation and Justice and Correctional Services form part of the Interministerial Committee on the RLHR. It's long that I've not done cabinet briefings, so my speech. The RLHR is a national memory project aimed at commemorating and celebrating South Africa's road to freedom. Cabinet established the IMC to oversee this project and provide political leadership. The project seeks to include various forms of memorialization of the sacrifices freedom fighters made for South Africa to become free and democratic. It also allows for the construction of museums, monuments, libraries, and archives, and aims to recognize the spirit of solidarity and cooperation amongst Africans. It has also been endorsed by the United Nations and has the potential to strengthen people-to-people cooperation using cultural and heritage across the continent. A number of activities that took place in 2022, including ministerial visits to Botswana and Zimbabwe, as well as planning meetings with Angola and Tanzania, has already taken place. Activities around this project aim to connect all Southern African countries and educate young people about the struggle against colonialism and racism. And the policy similarly makes allowance for the repatriation of the remains of South African liberation fighters who are buried in foreign countries. About 11 graves that are known to belong to South Africans have been identified in Zambia, including that of struggle stalwart Comrade Mr. Duma Nokwe. The National Policy on the Digitization of Arts, Culture and Heritage. Cabinet approved the National Policy on the Digitization of Arts, Culture and Heritage for implementation. The policy gives further effect to the National Policy on the Digitization of Heritage Resources that was developed by the then Department of Arts, Culture in 2011, and the policy focuses on the digitization of heritage resources for the purposes of preservation, access, management, and ownership. On terms of the bills, Judicial Matters Amendment Bill of 2023, Cabinet approved the submission of the Judicial Matters Amendment Bill of 2023 to Parliament. The bill aims to amend numerous acts administered by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development by addressing technical issues and matters that affect the practical application of the acts. The bill contains 37 clauses that propose amendments to correct the constitutional defects of the various acts. On upcoming events, Human Rights Day, President Ramaphosa will deliver the keynote address at the 2023 Human Rights Day national event on Tuesday, 21st March 2023 at DR in West Stadium in the Northern Cape. The theme of this year is consolidating and sustaining human rights culture into the future, as we commemorate the Sharpeville and Langa massacres and other massacres that took place on the 21st of March 1960 throughout the country. As government, we remain committed to the constitutional responsibility of protecting the human rights of all people in the country, and we plead to society to work together to ensure that we leave no one behind in making the provisions of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa of 1996 and the Bill of Rights alive and a lived reality for all. World Water Day. South Africa will mark National Water Week from 20 to 26 March 2023 under the theme Accelerating Change. This week coincides with the World Water Day on the 22nd of March 2023, which highlights the importance of fresh water. Despite the recent heavy rains in parts of the country, South Africa remains a water-scarce country and ranks as the 30th driest country in the world, and it therefore all our responsibility to continue to preserve water and make sure that all leaking pipes are closed or reported, and those in our households are repaired. Messages of congratulations. Cabinet extend its congratulations and well wishes to the Proteas who are currently hosting West Indies for the multi-format tour. Cabinet calls on all South Africans to support the Proteas as they continue to fly our flag high. On condolences, Cabinet expressed condolences to the family and friends of the Free State Education MEC, the late Tate Mahwe, who contributed immensely to the education sector and successfully led the Free State to attain the highest matric pass rate in 4 consecutive years. Comrade and MP Mauricia Gillion, who represented the Western Cape in the National Council of Provinces and served as the Select Committee on the Select Committee of Health and Social Services. She was a well-known activist and served the people of the Western Cape, especially in the rural parts of the province, for many years. Mr. John Wills is a renowned human rights lawyer and activist who represented a number of political leaders, including former President Nelson Mandela. Mr. Mark Pilgrim, a media personality who inspired and motivated many people in the media industry. Ms. Gloria Bosman, a multi-award-winning South African jazz musician and composer, and a magnificent artist whose life was lost yesterday. May their souls rest in peace. On appointments, all appointments are subject to the verifications of qualifications and relevant clearances. Members of the Sectional Title Scheme Management Advisory Council, Advocate Boise Kize as the chairperson, O.C. Penny Ngobe, deputy chairperson, Ms. Kagiso Chwanyana, Mr. Peter Jacopas Dipier, Advocate Nomonde Noktula January, Mr. Iqbal Mohammed Mutala, and Dr. Vuisani Mos. Members of the Magistrates Commission, Ms. Nomza Mozondo, Mr. Hanif Veli, Dr. Cornelia September, Mr. Mahabe Anamukwena, who's a reappointment, and Professor Estelle Hatter, who's a reappointment. Thank you. I'd like to invite the Minister of Police to then do the briefing on the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster, and then we'll take the questions together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cele. So we'll just join up the two. Thanks.
Good morning, Master of Ceremonies, ministers present, led by the Minister from the Presidency, Kumbuzo, and Minister of Defense, Minister Justice, Correctional Service, Transport. Ladies and gentlemen, the ministers of JCPS cluster have noted the planned protest action called by some groupings for Mondays. We have also noted the mobilization undertaken in various communications platforms for members of the public to join the protest action. Government louts residents and business who refuses to be intimidated or bullied, and assures them that everyone in South Africa and their property will be protected. Want to assure everyone in the country that the 20th of March will be a normal business day. We want to reiterate to our international community that, contrary to the pronouncement by those advocating for any disruption, all ports of entry, land, sea and air will be operational. Measures have been put in place to ensure that everyone who wants to go to work, travel for leisure, and conduct business on this day does so in a safe and secured environment. Law enforcement officers will be out in their numbers to protect them while enforcing the law. Anyone who intimidates, stops anyone from going to work, barricades the roads and highways, and uses any form of violence to try and stop our people from going on with their lives will face the full might of the law. We also want to caution against the spreading of messages of fear, intimidation, and inflammatory statements that could incite violence. This is a criminal offense. We are aware of many social media accounts claiming that hundreds of and thousands of followers are being mobilized to support the protest. The majority of communities and various sectors of society, including Santaco, National Tax Association, the Road Freight Association, and organized structures within different communities have rejected this call. We are aware that social media platforms are being used to give credence to the protest and want to encourage our people not to believe everything they read on social media. Government will be providing people with information through credible government channels. We are closely monitoring the situation throughout the country and will act swiftly and decisively against any threats of disruptions. There will be high police visibility. Our law enforcement agencies, through the net joints, will ensure multidisciplinary deployment, and the necessary contingency plans are already in place. The net joints will be briefing the nation on its plans for the planned protest. We commend the many associations in the sports, the transport sectors, the tax industry, the trucking industry, and others which have indicated they do not support any call for shutdown, the so-called shutdown, for any protest action that will result in the disruption in their businesses on Monday. Sporting events will continue as per their programs by their different sports associations. We will ensure that businesses continue to operate on that day and roads are accessible. All government services will be available as normal. Heads of government departments and accounting officers in the public sector services will continue to ensure that our citizens receive services they expect from the government. We encourage our communities to report any form of criminality and intimidation to their nearest police station and or call the Crime Stop number 10111. We want to reiterate that Monday will be a normal working day for all South Africans, and no amount of threats will disrupt the norm. Monday is a working day, and we assure every citizen that they must and should go on with their business and as usual without any fear from anyone. The security cluster is fully prepared and will deal with any disruption caused by this protest action. Finally, those who will be participating in any form of protest action around the country must ensure that they do so in a peaceful manner. No form of violence and criminality will be tolerated. The Constitution guarantees the right to protest peacefully and within the ambit of the law, and protesters must not infringe on the rights of any other citizens of the Republic of South Africa. I thank you.
Right. Thank you, Minister Cele, Minister Ntshavheni. Members of the media, we open for some questions. Peliswa, I trust we have a link to Cape Town, so if there's any online questions, you'll field them. Can I then open for the round in this room, please? Any hands, please? As usual, the protocol, if you'll just introduce yourself and your media house, please, and indicate if there's a specific principle that you'd like to field the question. Thank you very much. I have the first hand there, who I can't quite see, but he's behind the camera. Gentleman there, and then the lady in the front. 2, 3, 4 for now. Let's start with those 4. Gentlemen.
Okay, the name is Tumaula Mhlaudi from Newsroom Africa. Just a quick follow-up for Minister Cele. In terms of deployment, without, of course, sharing your plans, do you have the capacity to be out? As you said, you've assured businesses, you've assured South Africans that Monday will be a working day and zero tolerance will be applied for those who interfere with those trying to go about their business and enjoy their day or go about their businesses. But do you have the boots on the ground to be everywhere to respond to any challenges should they arise?
Thank you very much. In the front.
Gatel Sokoto from Kaya 959. This really is at the back of my colleague, Minister Cele. Goodness forbid, we see something like we saw with the July unrest. Also, do we have capacity? And also businesses who want to run, how will they be protected? I mean, there's a lot of businesses everywhere in the city. So how, if they do open shop and they are, intimidated or anything like that, how will they be protected?
Thank you very much. In the front here. Oh, sorry. At the back there.
Yes, thank you. My name is Bruno from Sunday World. I'm gonna ad-lib a bit from what the minister just said at the end. The minister said there will not be a tolerance of disruption to services. I'm wondering what services the minister is referring to. Is it electricity? Is it collection of waste? Is it provision of water? At least in my area where I come from, those services have not been coming in the past few weeks. But anyway, maybe the minister has a different picture. Then secondly, there is a report that we've managed to access. Well, it's a communication between the JCPS and Fidelity Security Group, where Fidelity is requesting a meeting with the JCPS with the idea that they would be able to back up the JCPS in terms of managing the shutdown. So we just want to find out if that meeting happened. As General Masemola met with former Hawks boss Johan Boysen, and if so, when and what was the outcome of the meeting? And the last question, I'll bring other questions in the second round. To the extent that the police do receive training in terms of public order policing, is the same assured for private security? We've seen very brutal images last time, the so-called June 20 unrest, where live ammunition was used against the public. Can the police assure us that if in any event that they decide to partner with private security, that we will not see a repeat of another Marikana? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, in the front.
Kosinathi Shazi from Power FM News. My media colleagues have covered most of the questions that I wanted to find out, but this is posed to the Justice Cluster, in particular Minister Cele and Minister Ronald Lamula. 2 weeks ago, former Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula spoke about the cabinet reshuffle, what had happened. He spoke about how ministers, there were negotiations for ministers in terms of them leaving their roles and ushering new ministers. But basically, in a nutshell, he said that the Justice Cluster has been identified as an underperforming ministry. The exact word he used was lacking. So my question is posed to Minister Cele and Minister Lamula. Would you say that the Justice Security Cluster is lacking? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peliswa, is there any question on the online platform, please?
No, there are no questions.
Nothing as yet. Then given the fact that I have 4, let me take one hand there from the gentleman who's giving up a very big hand there. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Abongile Tumago, SABC News. The governing party that you guys, Mr. Kele, and weak in the country, and so that the perpetuated violence that you might see on Monday is being kept in any possible way. I'm asking this because I was at the press briefing of the EFF yesterday. Julius Malema did not want to divulge as to basically how are they going to approach the protest, where are they going to start, where are they going to be heading to. You might have a challenge, if I may, to sort of get a sense of where is this whole protest going to take place from. Are you in any way aware how are we going to approach that, seeing that you have said you will deploy as much enforcement officials as possible?
Thank you very much. Okay. Sorry. Wait. All right. No, we'll take your hand. Let's just take them now, please. Okay, I'll come to you then, ma'am. Gentlemen, yeah, let's just take the last 2 then, that's fine.
Just on a question of clarity as well, a follow-up. In terms of the investment in the country and what Minister was saying about, the rumors, if I may, of investment fleeing the country, making an example of, the big investment coming in with the vehicles, etc. I'm just curious on the issue of, and also on the back of that, where vehicle manufacturers are in the country. Government has got long-standing contracts with the Bayerische Motorenwerke AG, or BMW, in terms of how they transport many of the government officials, particularly cabinet ministers. Is there any plans to change this, given the spate of state officials, and particularly also ANC leaders that have been perishing in terms of in their official vehicles? Are you looking at perhaps using different manufacturers to try and see if there's a problem with a particular vehicle or is there a problem with those driving the vehicle?
Okay, thank you. I got that one. Colleague?
Hi, Jocko from ENCA. Without obviously giving too much information, I'm just curious to know if the SANDF will be deployed on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jokos. All right. Sorry, the lights are quite bad. So I think let's take those ones for now. Let's start, Mr. Taylor, if you could perhaps start. Is it?
Alphabetical.
Yes.
Exactly what will happen either this afternoon or morning, the net joints will come with the actual plans of the ground, just giving the overall. Minister of Defense is here, but defense itself is a part of the net joints. So those commanders will give us the actual plan. That is for News Africa and Kaya. That's the same question. The the services. You don't see the services. They do see services. Hospitals will be open.
Pas président de la République vendredi, il y a un qui m'a terminé comme un vrai l'état frustration et non pas l'État nous nation. Il est clair que le président est frustré par son propre inhabilité et inhabilité son administration pour diriger et délivrer pour Cécile et peuple cécilois. Et c'est tant frustré qu'il perd toute habilité pour diagnoser vrai l'État sa nation qui a pu diriger. Il n'est pas capable d'offrir aucun espoir pour Cécile et Cécilois. Pour presque un an de temps, le président déboute devant nous et blâme tout le monde et tout quelque chose en bas soleil pour tout quelque chose mal dans sa pays. Au fait, pour servir pareil qu'on a dit, si nous analysons bien ça l'adresse, n'a pas rien qui peut masser Cécile. Mais il faut tous lesquels qui peut dire Cécile, moi, United Seychelles, come on my man,